Primero que nada, quiero agradecer a SAE Institute México por prestarnos esta hermosa casa para realizar este evento. También, obviamente, a Pixar y a Walt Disney Company por permitirnos compartir estos momentos con el gran director y el productor de Toy Story 4. Well, having said that, welcome, and let me introduce to you Mr. Hugo Pacheco, who is the Director of Publicity and Corporate Communications from the Walt Disney Company. Please give him a big round of applause. Welcome.
Gracias, gracias. Hola, buenas tardes, ¿cómo están? Gracias por las palabras en inglés, yo lo voy a decir en español. ¿Cómo están? Buenas tardes. Antes que nada, agradecerles que el día de hoy nos acompañen a este gran evento. La verdad es que ustedes, al ser estudiantes de este tipo de carreras, deben sentirse muy honrados y muy orgullosos de poder estar frente a artistas que tienen tanta fama mundial y que seguramente ustedes crecieron con muchas de sus películas, siguen creciendo, sus hijos crecerán, sus nietos crecerán, así que esto continúa. Y agradecerles a SAE, señor Iniesta, thank you very much. A todos ustedes que estén el día de hoy con nosotros. Y ¿se acuerdan que estuvimos el año pasado con Increíbles 2? Levante la mano quien estuvo aquí con Increíbles 2. Ah, bueno. Entonces, ¿se acuerdan que fue un gran momento y una gran plática que tuvimos en aquel momento con los directores y los productores? Y bueno, seguramente hoy no va a ser la excepción. Quiero presentar en primer lugar a Josh Cooley. Josh Cooley es el director de Toy Story 4. Él entró a Pixar en 2003 como becario, así para que vean que todos los becarios pueden llegar a ser grandes directores de algún estudio o de lo que ustedes gusten. Ha trabajado en diferentes films, en Ratatouille. Actualmente, pues obviamente con Toy Story 4 está 100% con la película. Y bueno, quiero que le demos un gran aplauso. Big applause to Josh Cooley, please. La siguiente persona es, independientemente de que es un gran amigo, es alguien que quiere mucho a este país, se siente muy identificado, tiene raíces mexicanas, así que cada vez que viene gozamos mucho de que esté por aquí, por México. Le encantan los tacos, le encantan las gringas, es parte de su menú que no puede faltar cuando viene a México. Y Jonas también, él entró en 1994 a Pixar, también entró como becario y prácticamente ha estado supervisando en todas las películas. La gran película que todos recordarán intensamente, Inside Out, ganadora del Oscar, pues participó activamente en la película y bueno, de ahí ha estado constantemente en los demás films de Pixar. Y actualmente ya tiene un puesto de Senior Executive de toda la parte de producción. Él ya se encarga de supervisar todas las películas de Pixar. De hecho, esta es la última película en la que está participando activamente, porque después se va a encargar de supervisar absolutamente todo el contenido de Pixar. Así que es un gran honor que ustedes conozcan a Jonas Rivera. Big applause to Jonas. My friend. Así que bueno, los dejamos con Jonas, con Josh, el señor Iniesta, para que puedan hacer todas las preguntas y bienvenidos y muchas gracias por acompañarnos el día de hoy.
Thank you, everybody.
Hello. Hola. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And well, to start the conversation, I would like for you to tell us the best thing about Toy Story 4. I mean, why did you like the film so much? How much of your soul you put into it? Which one is your favorite character? I mean, whatever you can tell us about this film.
Well, I started. Hi, everybody. I started on this film when I was finishing on Inside Out, and so I started in May of 2014. So it's been about 5 years, and being asked to direct a Toy Story movie is the most terrifying thing that could ever happen, and also the most exciting thing because I love these characters and I love the world so much, and it's always exciting to bring new characters to the Toy Story movies, and working with the cast is amazing. So it's been a tough one, but really rewarding at the same time.
Yeah, I'll just add. First of all, can I say this is the most beautiful place we've ever been. Thank you for having us here. We want to sit here all night, talk about this. But I'll just add. The crew on Toy Story 4, you asked, how much of our soul do we put into it? And I would say everything. One thing about this movie, and it's true of all the films we've worked on, is that we don't make anything unless we love it. We hope the audience loves every film and that it does business and so forth. But we start with just making what we want to make and what we want to see. And so this film it's an interesting crew because I worked on the first one a little bit. I was an intern and a production assistant on the first Toy Story film. And there's a number of us on the crew that worked on the original, our production designer and some of the technical folks. And then there's a number of people that are working on the film or worked on the film that were 6 years old when the first one came out. And they say it was the first movie they ever saw. And so there's this group dynamic there that, the old timers like myself, we say we don't want to mess this up for Pixar because we love Buzz and Woody so much. And then there's a group of younger people that are saying don't mess up our childhoods because we grew up with Buzz and Woody.
No pressure at all.
No pressure. And it was legit and real pressure because none of us, we just want to honor it because we love Toy Story so much. And when we kind of found this way to get into the story, which we really got excited about, it felt like, oh, maybe we can do that. So that was kind of its origin and how we feel about it. So now that it's out, we feel really proud of it, and every single frame of it is made by hand with love from the crew at Pixar.
Yeah, we told ourselves we weren't going to make something unless it earned the title of Toy Story 4. So that was a high bar.
Very high.
Yeah.
Very high. And what about the characters? Which one is your favorite character or the character that you fell in love with, and why?
Oh, in a way, it's like asking which is your favorite child. Only because, and this may sound cheesy, but every day we go into work and we are with Woody and Buzz and Bo and all these characters, and we see them more than our own children, kind of, 8 hours a day. So we're always thinking about them as real people and having real emotion, and they come across. After a while, the movie starts to tell you what it needs to be, and it's almost like the characters are telling you what they need to go through. Which I know it sounds very bizarre, but it feels that way. And so to say which one of your children do you love the most, it's a tough one.
All of them.
But I do think that Woody being the protagonist, he's probably my favorite just because I relate to him as a director, but also as a father. We always treat the toys as parents. That their job is to be there for their kid, and that is the most important thing for them. And they take it very seriously. And whenever something threatens that, is when they get anxious or scared or fearful, and that is real parent emotion. And so I always. Even before I had kids, I was like, I've always attached to Woody somehow. Favorite character?
You guys haven't seen it yet. There's a lot of new characters, but I think I obviously love Woody. It's true. It's hard to call. I think Jessie has over the years is my favorite character, and it's because Jessie in Toy Story 2, that's kind of the first time that a character exposes Woody a little bit, that he's privileged and that he's kind of got everything he's ever wanted and that most toys haven't. And Jessie's the first one to shine that light on Woody. And it's, I think, in a weird way, that moment in Toy Story 2 is a really good setup for what we were doing in 4. So I've always thought of Jessie as the character that kind of unlocked the real story a little bit. That's my take. So I just love her.
Oh, wonderful. One question, not about Toy Story, but about your personal lives. I mean, no. This. I mean, here in the audience we have young students, young professionals. I mean, now after you've walk the path, a long way in this industry, and you're directing this amazing property. I mean, what word of advice would you give these guys?
Wow, yeah. I got to be honest, on the whole tour we're on right now, I was most excited about this because when I was in art school, I had a lot of people come and talk, and that really inspired me, so I'm hoping that this will do the same for you as well. The one thing that I continue to learn through school and through work is just that we're communicating ideas, like whether you're in video games or animation or film, whatever it is, you're just trying to communicate ideas across. So the best way that you can communicate, the clearest way to communicate is the best. So whether that's drawing or whatever it is you need to do that. For me anyway, it was drawing because I went to school for illustration. So my advice is always carry a sketchbook, draw from life, nonstop, all the time. It helps regardless of where you go in life and what you do. Drawing is a great way to communicate. You don't need words to do that. Let's see, what else? Do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot because I came into Pixar as an intern right from film school at San Francisco State, and it was before Pixar was known. It was the 1994. It was the last year Toy Story was in production, and I didn't know what Toy Story was. Pixar had done some short films and some commercials in those days, and I'm not an artist. I always wanted to be an artist or an animator. But I don't have those skills, but I love film. I love making things and being part of a team. And I had my heart set on, I wanted to work for Disney. I wanted to work for either the parks or in Disney animation. And I was kind of stuck on, that was my goal. And my one piece of advice is be open to what you think your goal is in terms of where you go is different. Because what I found with Pixar, by pure accident, and it was literally, I called them, because I heard that they needed help. Someone in San Francisco State was saying they were busy, but I didn't know on what. And I walked in to start work because they needed help, and I found at the time what I thought was, and I still describe it this way, it was like a cooler punk rock version of how I pictured Disney to be. And I realized in a weird way, had I aimed at that one target, I would have missed a little bit because I found I don't know, like this strange version of it that I didn't even know exists. So I only share that because there may be, and listen, I love Pixar. I hope everyone aims for something like Pixar, but I promise you there are probably 5 or 6 Pixar, like punk rock versions of that brewing somewhere. So just don't be afraid to look under every rock and look in places you don't think, because it's all about the future and it's all about what people are thinking up next. So anyway, that was kind of my perspective on it. Thank you.
Well, one last question from me before we open it to the audience, and this has to do with storytelling. I mean, we live in a society where stories are the element that connect us and can actually propel human beings to become better beings. What do you think you put that in your movies? I mean, how are your movies making better human beings?
Well, we never begin with that. We never try to sit down and go, how can we make the world a better place? I think what we do is we try and tell stories that have a truth behind them. Whether that's, I'm thinking like Up. Pete said, man, I just sometimes feel like I just want to get away from everybody. And that's something, like, man, I feel that way too. And Inside Out, we all think we hear voices in our head. So that was always something that is a truth to just being human. And I think, all of us have our own story, and the thing I've noticed over time is that the more personal your story is, the more universal it is. Coco being a fantastic example of that. I think everybody was surprised at how well around the world it was received. So I think just finding a truth in the world that's human, and I think that's within yourself. So finding your own story and seeing what moves you, because it's going to move somebody else as well.
Thank you. You want to add anything to that?
No, I remember. I will add to that, just because you mentioned Up, and we both worked with Pete Docter for many years on many films, and one of Pete's mentors was a guy named Joe Grant. And Joe Grant, among other things, was a character designer and story artist at Disney in the 1930s. He helped design the Seven Dwarfs. He wrote Dumbo with a guy named Dick Humer. And we got to meet Joe. We dedicated the film up to him because he was a lot like Carl Fredricksen in that film. He died drawing at his table. He was an artist all the way till the end. He was an amazing artist and writer. And I just remember him saying, talking to us about films, and he said, you always want to give something to let the audience take away with them so that it's not just a fleeting experience, but it's something that it's almost like a vacation that you want a souvenir from. And he said that's why Dumbo still is relevant, because that's just a movie that's about something very simple. It's basically about a guy with a handicap who has to overcome an obstacle, and it's very simple, and you feel for him. And whatever, 80 years later, people still talk about it. And we talk about it every day, the very simple story. And it just really resonated. And it's something that, again, we don't set off and say, okay, we're going to make a film that's important. We say we want to make a film that's good and entertaining. But if you do it from an emotional, personal, connective place, you will end up making something that hopefully resonates with people. So we think a lot about that stuff, the pathos of it all, juxtaposed with the comedy and the entertainment and so forth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great answer. So, who has the microphone question?
I don't have a favorite. I think the story kind of drives what that medium is. Like, for example, I can't imagine seeing Nightmare Before Christmas in 3D. It wouldn't feel right to me. It just be the way that stop motion, like it adds to the charm of that story. And I think it's fascinating to see how the stories that people tell are kind of moved towards the medium as well. So to answer your question, I don't have a favorite one. I think it depends on the story.
I have to admit, working at Pixar, obviously we're computer animators, and I love the look and the rendering and the things we can do. But I have to admit, whenever I see hand-drawn animation, I sit up a little more. There's something about the pencil line and the I'm I love the classic Disney animated films. Those are my favorites. But I just love that look. I mean, if anything, we do a lot of work trying to maintain that spirit in CG animation.
Go for it.
Well, yeah. Listen, I'd be lying to you if I said Pixar hasn't changed. It's changed since 1995. It's bigger. There's more of us. There's more pressure on these films to perform around the world and so forth. But yet, and in those days, you have to understand, it was like Steve Jobs was there roaming the halls. I mean, he literally was think different was his motto. And so everything was about, let's go the other way. If people are doing this, let's do that. And that's part of the DNA. As we've gotten bigger, that's evolved and changed. But I'd say,
I still feel it.
I still feel it too.
I mean, just as an example, we made a character out of a spork. Like, we have the most advanced computers in the world, and we made a spork.
Yeah.
So in a way, we try and be a little, punk rock in our storytelling as well, just to go the opposite way. I mean, just the fact that we made a fourth one's kind of punk rock, because people were like, wait, what? I thought you were done.
Yeah.
So I think there is something to, the spirit is definitely still there.
There's a fight to it.
Yeah.
People, we screen our movies, by the way, internally for most people at the studio, and I found it very interesting as we've kind of grown up and have a lot of tenure and been there a long time. The younger people that have come in send us notes. They do not hold back. Like, people are not afraid to speak up what they think, and they tell us what they think.
Yeah, it's great.
And so I think that, and sometimes that's rough, but it actually makes me feel good about the future of the place, because people kind of come into it with a lot of guts and they want to make great things. So, it's a balance, but it's still part of the company for sure.
Well, we have a multitude of voices. I think that helps a lot. We're not just having the same person tell the same story. But I think also just having characters that are different from one another and have, we treat them all as human, but they have different traits and different personalities. I think that helps with it. I'm trying to think of what else.
I wonder if it's like the brain trust a little bit might be worth mentioning. We have a creative brain, all the directors, producers, writers, and so forth. When we show the movies to each other, and we do this a lot, we get all the directors in the room, and they'll, hopefully with objectivity, give notes. It's not about competing, it's about just making every film the best. And so I think that it's pretty healthy to have a room with Brad Bird in it that says, I would not do that, and I think you're wrong for that. And Pete Docter to counter that with this note. And, Stephanie Folsom, our writer, to defend it from this way. But then the director to stand up and talk to why he or she's put it in the movie. And that tug of war between those groups usually help the movie.
Yeah.
When you're working on it, you could fall in love with the wrong thing. There are things that we think, this is the best part of the movie. And then you show an audience, like, that makes no sense to the movie, and you're too close to cut out. You're 5 years of this. So we rely on each other, I think, to help us prevent falling into tropes or repeating each other, but to also to keep it fresh and exciting to the audience.
You guys were all here for Brad Bird. Was he here last year? I remember one of the brain trust sessions we had, it was the first time we had Forky in the film, and he was just like, yeah, man, Forky's the movie, man. You gotta keep Forky in the movie. That's him. This is the movie. It's Toy Story 4. He was very excited, and so, we're like great because we've been creating the character, but just to have a fresh voice, somebody who hasn't seen, doesn't have the baggage of creating it, hear what they have to say, and somebody who I respect and trust as a storyteller as well. It's huge.
3 months later, I saw Bird driving out of the parking lot, and he rolled down his window and he goes, Forky! As if we were gonna forget it.
He's very loud. So this is something that we were very conscious of from day one, because you're doing a fourth film. There's a lot of track that's been laid before us, and so we did not want to make sure we wanted to make sure we did not copy ourselves or do something that didn't feel right for the character. So, for example, in a way, Forky coming into the room is kind of like Buzz Lightyear coming into the room, but Woody's reaction is completely different. So in Toy Story 1, he's jealous and he gets anxious and he literally wants to murder him and throw him out the window. But when Forky comes into the room, we said we can't have that same thing happen, because this is a Woody who's evolved and is now more mature and actually cares. It's not a selfish thing. It's like what's right for Bonnie. So we have him take on Forky as a mentor, as opposed to wanting to get rid of him and kick him out of the room. So we take all that into consideration as where he's been and kind of where we see him going for all this. Same thing with Bo, just knowing, we looked at the Toy Story 1 and 2 to see her scenes, just to remind ourselves. We watched all of her scenes together. It only took 6 minutes. She's really not on screen that much at all. But what we noticed is that she's actually one of the strongest characters in the Toy Story room. Because whenever Woody would get frustrated or not know what to do, he would turn to Bo and she'd say, look under your boot, look whose name's there, your kid loves you. And he would go, oh, right, and kind of remind him, who he was. And so we thought we can just take that character who's already there and just show how, and just bring her up to the surface and make her even stronger. She's gone out and lived a life that Woody's never even dreamt of. So we are taking in consideration 1, 2, and 3 into everywhere we're going with 4, including Buzz's relationship with Woody. Their friendship is more important than ever in this film. Just the story reels, I wouldn't say there's at least 20 versions of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, we did it over and over and over and over again.
There's a lot. And pieces of them would stay, a lot of it would fall away. When you watch a Pixar film, you're watching all the best ideas at once. It's like it's reduced down to its purest form, and then you just shoot it, and you're in 88 minutes, and you're done. But it takes us 5 years to find those little nuggets and those things just to reduce it down. We come up with a lot of bad ideas all the time. And that's why we don't show them to anybody.
And sometimes the bad ideas feel like bad ideas, and then Forky was that. Forky, we honestly, when you guys started drawing Forky, we literally said, is this the worst idea or is this a good idea? We didn't know.
I didn't know you felt that way.
Started turning into a good idea, and you can't now imagine the movie without him. So we just chase everything down. I think that's one of the secrets of Pixar, is we just give ourselves the runway, and the studio is built to, Ed Catmull used to always say, our job is to be wrong as quickly as we can. And we're good at that. We're good at being wrong quick, and then we give ourselves the time to shift and make it better, make it work. I love Forky. I always thought he was a good idea.
Good. Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were sitting around in the story room one day and just joking around like we do. And we asked the same questions that everybody asks, you know, like, why does Buzz, in the first film, he thinks he's a space ranger, so why is he falling down on the floor whenever Andy comes into the room? So we think about all that stuff. And so one of the things we were joking with is, well, what if Bonnie picks up a rock and draws a face on it and starts playing with it? Is it alive now? It was just all these, you know, what are the rules of the world? And then we thought about our own kids and how our kids will make arts and crafts projects in school or, you know, for fun and play around with them. Or sometimes they'll get Christmas presents and they'll play with the box instead of the actual toy that came with it. So all these, like, they're toy truths, and that's always where the gold is in Toy Story, is when you're able to look at something and go, oh, I know what that is. I've done that before. I've seen that. And so we just joked around, well, what if you made a toy and it came to life? What would happen? And having a character that has never seen Toy Story 1, 2, or 3, and all of a sudden comes to life and doesn't understand anything about anything, that to me is just, it's comedy gold, and also just feels fresh and new to the franchise. So that's where Forky came from. I think it was from our kids.
Yeah, I think so. And then I think we just started weaving him into the story so deeply that it was not only was it a fun idea inspired by kids and a toy truth, we call it, but a way to really amplify Woody. You know, if Woody was once replaced by Buzz Lightyear, even Woody would have to go, well, he is Buzz Lightyear. He even says he's got buttons and lasers, and
you're a cool
I have to admit he's pretty cool. Well, now he's replaced by that. I mean, poor Woody is like, I don't know how much more I could take. That felt like we could dramatize that.
And especially when even that thing doesn't want to be a toy and thinks he's trash. It's the kind of the worst thing. So, but that's why I love Woody, because he embraces that. He's like, well, if Bonnie loves this, then I'm going to help this toy understand what that means.
Oh my God! So that means that every art craft that we made is a toy and have soul. Oh my God!
Careful.
You have killed a lot of toys.
Yeah. Why?
I'm sorry. That's just the way it is.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
How are our childhoods?
Yeah, I think in every way.
Yeah, well, I never grew out of my childhood. That's part of the problem. I think, you know, I have these in my office, and not that, you know, I don't play with them, or maybe I do. I don't know.
You even had to buy them.
Yeah. So that helps, just having a naive sensibility, just coming to things from a naive sense, you know, very just thinking like with a kid's point of view. I don't feel like I'm answering the question. What was the question? I totally lost.
How did our childhood?
Oh, our childhood. Well, for one thing, we put toys in this movie that are from our childhood. So Woody and you know, Woody is very 1950s. We grew up in the 70s, 80s, and so we have a lot of those toys. And there was a huge toy explosion over in history during the 70s and 80s with like the Star Wars toys, and we've got like a Polly Pocket type of toy in there, and geez, what else? Evil Knievel. Yeah, Duke Kaboom.
He's kind of a product of our 70s youth.
And carnival toys as well. So we looked at all what we grew up with, and we just used that as inspiration as well.
I think too, man, just to go all the way with it, and this is common at Pixar, because you're right, we're sort of bonded by the fact that all of us are kind of like 8 to 10-year-olds there in the way we think and see the world. And I don't mean that in a mocking way. It's really how we see the world. Like, we're not faking it. Like, we love this stuff. When I was a kid, my moment, we all have sort of these moments we talk about, and we talked a lot about this on Inside Out, is like, what is those core memories, that moment that defined you? And when I was a kid, my parents took me to Disneyland when I was 4 years old, and I remember what I was wearing on that day. Like, it hit me like a rock, and obviously I was 4, I didn't know what working was, but I knew like I wanted to be part of that. There was something about that moment that cemented something in me, just wanting to hold on to that. I think all of our films in a way have this
You Peter Pan.
Peter Pan, like wanting to hold on to that feeling we had when we were kids. And it's a sophisticated feeling. Again, it's not playing dumb. It's like a real legitimate thing. That trip, I have a map I got of Disneyland from 1974, and it's framed in my office because every day I come in, I sort of feel like I kind of want to like, my job is to try to share that feeling a little bit, like to somehow take that feeling I had when I was a kid and help amplify it out to the world. And that's kind of how I see these pictures, is like it's our way to do it. Like we don't want anyone to forget how good that felt to have that lens. And so I don't know, I think our movies, although we try to make them sophisticated and for adults with adult issues, we want them to have warmth and fun of the way we all saw the world when we were kids. So it's a deep question and something we think about all the time.
It was a lot of pressure. You're talking about being handed?
Yeah, the pressure of it.
Yeah, so, you know, I love these characters. I got to, you know, before I started working at Pixar, I saw Toy Story 1 and 2 as a general audience, so I kind of came into it as a huge fan already. And we love these characters so much at Pixar, and they are kind of the foundation of our entire company. You know, the first Toy Story being the first animated or CG film, and they're responsible for that. And so we take great pride in them, and you know, knowing we wanted to continue the story, we just did not want to mess that up at all. So, anything more to add to that?
No, it was tremendous pressure, pressure. And you just hope to honor the legacy of the films and how much people love them, and we didn't sleep a lot, I'll put it that way.
Oh my God, I can't wait for you to see this film. Randy Newman, he, in my opinion, his music is as important as Woody's voice and Tom Hanks and Tim Allen. He brings, his music is Toy Story. So one of the times I lost it, started crying, was the very first scoring session when the first cue came up, and they're playing to the screen. You know, they got the screen up there, and so I'm watching, and you know, Buzz and Woody are running around Andy's room, and music went boom, 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 and I just went, oh, and it really hit me. I'm like, this is finally, we're making a Toy Story movie, and the thing that he did in this film that I thought was just genius was he reused themes of these characters that we are so familiar with, but in a completely different way. And it makes it nostalgic, which is what you're supposed to be in that moment with Woody, and also in a way like shows you the future as well. I can't explain how he did it because he's Randy, and if you were to ask him, he'd go, I don't know, I just do what I do. Yeah. But he was such a joy to work with. I can't speak highly enough about him. Thank you for saying that. That's I didn't realize till right now. No. I don't know how to begin to answer this.
I don't either. That's amazing. I just kind of want to percolate in that comment and question. I mean, in terms of other animation studios or even at Disney, it's like we don't, and even internally, it's not like we're sitting down trying to make, I think it would come off false if we tried to sit down and engineer statements or deeper meanings. We always, maybe it comes up, but we always default and go back to us, to like what we feel and what we think is important. Someone asked earlier, like, why do you think the films, and not just Coco did so well, but why do you think all the Pixar films resonate so well with the people in Mexico? It was a good question, and I think it's because every time we're in a story meeting or in any one of our films, it always comes back to this exercise where we try to strip the plot away and strip the specifics and go, what's the relationship dynamic? And there's something in the cocktail, the simplicity of that resonates and helps, I don't know, send the right message, I guess. But I'm not answering your question. I apologize, but it's such a great question. I think I might need a day on it.
Yeah,
This is more of a conversation than a Q&A.
I did think about this once before, and it freaked me out. because these stories go everywhere. But specifically with this film, the thing that am hoping that the world takes away is empathy, and empathy towards each other, and just seeing that people go through life in different ways, and you can't just judge based on what you see, and that you can connect with people on a different level if you kind of really learn and see who they are.
I mean, we did say that at one point, and I remember this specifically, when we were talking about Woody and how much we love him and his sense of duty. He's a righteous guy. He just wants to do right by his family, basically, by his kids, kind of. He looks at Andy as his kids. And I remember we thought, well, is there a way to scale that? I don't know if that was you or Andrew or just in the conversation, like what if there was a way to take that I'm there for my kid and make it plural, make it, I'm there for more. And then we got to like, wow, what if you could make a movie, and again, not to make a movie that's preachy in any way, but wouldn't it be cool if, especially today, if you could walk out of a movie, a 90-minute movie that has Ducky and Bunny in it, and come out feeling like you wanted to do a little bit more in the world, like maybe help out someone you don't even know. Like, wouldn't that be a cool echo of a piece of art if you could do it? And we agreed that would be worthy. Now, that's not we're not saying that's what we did, but we are saying that was part of the core thought of like, if you're going to put something in the world, you better have something to say, and we don't want to abuse that. We want to use that kind of for the right thing. So I don't mean to sound corny or preachy, but it did come up as something important to us.
So the interesting thing is, and I don't think anybody's ever noticed this, is that that's actually her original clothes that she's wearing. And it's just that the petticoat, the pink petticoat is gone, and her bonnet is gone. That's it. She's actually just redone her
she's
the actual
taken
dress part,
her skirt and made it a cloak.
The skirt that is turned inside out, so you can see the pink the pink polka dots on the inside. That's actually the outside of her skirt. So what we did was we just wanted to take Bo and bring her back into the movie, into this world in a way that was totally unexpected to the audience, but also to Woody. And just so that Woody can kind of be thrown off his game and go, why is she like this? What kind of asking the same question you are, which is, what has happened to you? What have you gone through that's made this happen? And we were having her return as a lost toy, which is the thing he's been most afraid of for every single movie. And now their worldviews are completely against each other. Like, he knows he's there for a kid, and she's just like, you don't have to be there for a kid. He's like, no. Yes, so there's conflict automatically there. And we went through a lot of different variations. In the Art of book, you'll be able to see there's a ton of different versions that we did of Bo. And we went too far just to see like how crazy can we go with it. And we had a version where she looked like Furiosa from Mad Max, And then we had where her arm was completely missing. And then we had other versions where she was more like camouflaged. And so we explored a lot. In fact, we had this team we called Team Bo, who was all females made up of, in the studio, made up of animators, artists, lighters,
writers,
cloth
character
sim,
people, yeah,
from every department. And they kind of called themselves Team Bo and would gather together and at times even push us out of the room, go, well, we're going to work on this. You guys go do something else. And they were like Bo's guardian angels, and I love that anytime we would be just talking about Bo, somebody would go like, what if we tried this, or what if we tried that? And so we just wanted to bring her back in a big way that was just amplifying what was already there in her character. And Annie Potts, who does the voice, is a huge part of that as well.
What is your point of view about animation in Latin America?
Well, we love animation. We love animation, period, wherever it's from. To be totally honest, I need to get more involved in seeing what's coming out these days. I haven't had we were joking. We haven't had a chance to see any movie, even the Disney guys. Like, what'd you think of Aladdin? We're like, we haven't seen it yet. It's busy on Toy Story 4. So we're champions of animation from around the world. Not just computer, big budget, tentpole films, but hand drawn, stop motion. Anything up and coming, we love to dig in and look into.
Yeah, I just like being surprised by something I've never seen before. So I'm actually excited to go on vacation after this because I have a stack of movies from here to the ceiling that I need to watch.
Thank you.
Animated movies or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good, very good.
Yeah. I grew up reading the comic books and reading Spider-Ham and all those things. And when I heard they were doing one with all of them, I thought, oh boy, that's going to be, and I was blown away at how good the story was and how the techniques and everything. So I admired that greatly.
Yeah, me too. We look forward to, everything. We obviously, being in the Disney umbrella, we look forward to seeing the movies that come out of feature Disney animation, because oftentimes they'll be doing things that will inspire what we do, and there's a number of examples of that over the years. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to the Tarantino movie personally. I'd be so excited about that. I love his films, and that's like one of the great trailers I've ever seen. I don't know. So many. We're just movie fans. We look forward to seeing everything. We have screenings at Pixar almost twice a week of every kind of film you can imagine, and we love it all. Yeah, the technology, as you can imagine, is always changing. And 1995 was a long time ago. And so I think the biggest challenge was being open to the new rendering and techniques and stuff we can do in CG, but somehow honor the original look of the film. So we boiled it down to 3 things. And our production designer, Bob Pauly, was the character designer on the first film, and he helped us kind of cement this, which is no matter what you do with Toy Story and the detail and the complexity of it, it's 3 things. It's caricatured shapes, so when you model a table, it's not exactly razor sharp precise. It's a certain roundness to it. It's realistic textures, so if you were to use this chair or denim, it would be kind of amplified. You could see it even on Bo, like we really accentuate the textures. And then the theatrical lighting. So it's not just realistic lighting, it is fake and theatrical and somewhat punched up. And so those 3 things are consistent. On top of that, we have the renderer and the lighting capability. So when you see the film, it opens up in a rainstorm. And that's something we could have never done in Toy Story. I remember there's one shot in Toy Story where the rain hits the window in the first Toy Story, and that had to be this complete weird shader fake that 15 people had to work on, including Tom Porter, just to make that work. And now we set a whole scene in the rain with rushing water and mud and so forth. And so we're able to do things story-wise that you weren't able to do in 1995. And we just basically use it to amplify the stakes of being a toy out in the world. So it was just maintaining the look, but I would also say we get a little closer to the characters, a little closer to where we shot the film in 2:3:9 aspect ratio as opposed to 1:8:5, which all the other Toy Stories are. So we wanted a little bit more of a sense of cinema to it as well.
Also, specifically for this movie, the antique store that we go into has 10,000 items in it that all had to be set dressed and everything. And at first we didn't know if we could actually do it, just because that's so much stuff. And we did a couple tests early on, and we were able to do it. We shrunk the store down a little bit just to make it easier, but it still has 10,000 items. And so that was a big one, and all those items are shaded and and everything. And in fact, any shot during the antique store when you're in there, if you hit pause, you're going to see an Easter egg from some other Pixar film, because there's more Easter eggs in this movie than any Pixar film, all hidden in the shelves.
Thank you.
And I forgot the first question. It was
how do you make a movie inspired?
Oh, inspired, yeah. So it's a great question. So we set out to make Toy Story 4 its own film, but also part of the greater one, which is a hard thing to do. So that my kids, if they hadn't seen the first 3, would still enjoy this film and see that, and make them actually want to go and see the other ones. And for all of you who have seen all 3, this is a continuation of that story. So we've always treated, I'll tell you this, we've always treated Woody as a parent. And in a way, the end of Toy Story 3 is letting the parent letting the child go and kind of letting them go off onto their own. And Toy Story 4 is a little bit of an empty nest syndrome, which is the child's gone, and now what am I supposed to do as a parent? So there's a little bit of like trying to figure out your purpose as well, which I think can resonate for everybody, not just for empty nesters, but also children as well, trying to figure out what their purpose in life is.
And to the second question about kind of role of the women at the studio, specifically on this film, I mean, I can't state it strong enough. Listen, at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to make movies that reflect the world we're in, right? We want to make movies that feel real. We do a ton of research, whether they're toys or cars or, you know, or whatever the subject is. But they're all characters, and they're all kind of based on people. And so it's not only kind of Team Bo, which was an organic kind of group of people that wanted to make her feel authentic. It's the fact that, I mean, things are changing. The story rooms, the animation dailies at Pixar looks a lot different than it did in 1995. I'm proud of all the films and all the work we've done, but the business is just changing. People coming out of schools are changing. It's a lot more balanced, and we're starting to see that now at Pixar. I mean, 2 of the directing animators on the film were women, the writer and head of story, and they would just call us on stuff, and to be totally honest, more so than I remember on past films. I mean, just to be blunt about it, when there would be certain ideas we'd have with Bo, and you know, one of those women would say, "Yeah, guys, that's something that a guy thinks a girl would do." We're like, "All right, fair enough. I'm a dude." And then they would kind of come in and augment it and recraft it. I mean, that would happen a number of times, and you started to realize, oh, what's happening is at least I think, and I hope you guys feel this when you see it, that the result of that was just a character that was a little more real and nuanced and not falling into any tropes and things. And I went a long way to go, and there's still work to do, but she's a little bit of the face of that for us when I kind of blur my eyes and look across Pixar. We've worked on a lot of films with a lot of great female characters and supervisors and collaborators, but I would say this is the one that we were able to dig the deepest on. So it's something we're proud of. It's something we're going to keep working at, and I hope you'll see that as part of the DNA of the studio going forward.
Well, the good news is the next 7 films we're making are all original films.
You're in luck.
So you've got watching to do. You know, if actually, I was going to say if this happened, but it did happen. When they came to us and said, we want to make a Toy Story 4, we said, we thought it was over. We thought that was the end. And we had the same reaction everybody has. But we decided, or we discovered anyway, that Woody saying goodbye to Andy, it concludes his story with Andy, but we uncovered more story for Woody. Like, we could still complete his arc. And so, now that he's in a new bedroom with new toys and new kid and everything, it's not going to be the same as it was with Andy. Bonnie's going to just a different kid, and she's going to play with him differently, and that's how life is. So that's what got me really interested in it, because I said I know Woody so well, but I've never seen him in that situation. And once we started going down that path, and also knowing we could bring back Bo Peep and kind of answer what happened to her and see how she's can affect Woody's life again, we uncovered a story that we decided this is worthy of Toy Story 4. And to be honest, that's kind of how we make all of our stories at Pixar. It's like we'll just start talking about it and see what kind of gets uncovered along the way.
Yeah, so for what it's worth, we feel the same. And we put it to ourselves as like, well, that's how we feel. We always want to see, we never want to repeat ourselves. So we almost took this like as big of a challenge as Up or Inside Out, whereas that had the benefit of, well, no one's seen anything, so we get to kind of present that to the world in a way that no one has any expectation. This, everyone has an expectation for, but what if we could just, for the sake of argument, dismiss it and make a movie we would want to see? That was our challenge, and well, honestly, man, it won me over. We started feeling that, because we did. We told the crew, we told our bosses, like, we're not going to do it if we don't find that lane to do it. And
so I actually get really excited when you're like, why are you making this movie? I'm like, yeah, go find out.
Thank you.
Okay, well.
Thank you, Hugo. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, guys.
Oh, thank you for having us.
So much, Hugo.
For your passion and basically for your love to Mexico. Thank you very much. Gracias a todos ustedes. And now we have a final activity, okay? It's a big picture with all of you and with all the students. So if you can please get down.
Yeah, where would you like?
Yeah, we're doing.
And ustedes podrían voltear todos para la cámara. Se pueden parar and turn around in front of the camera. Yeah. And what about if we show 4 hands, 4 fingers? ¿Pueden enseñar 4 dedos, por favor? Nos avisas cuando estés listo, por favor. Ok, 1, 2, 3. 4. Gracias a todos.